share in the group. These 21-day programs are there to provoke your thought process, to think more about you as an individual, and to build on the knowledge that I'm sharing with you in a lot of different fields. And that brings me to my first point, is that I'm not an expert in all of these fields, but I am one of life's eternal students. And so I have done an awful lot of study with a lot of different experts or teachers around the world. And I like to take the best of what they teach me and then to incorporate it with what is probably an established grounding in mental health psychology that I have and have had for the last 30 years that I've been working with people. So I'm going to push the boundaries a little bit in terms of how you might ask those questions of yourself. And I'd like you to do it in a way that holds no judgment whatsoever. And that's the difficult bit, right? So when we start to ask ourselves questions about what might be our own perceptions of ourselves, or perceptions of a situation that we're in, or a relationship that may be not so healthy for us, and we create all of these beliefs and all of these perceptions, which may not be true. In fact, in a lot of cases, they simply aren't. And so one thing that I learned when I was doing the work with recently with Gabor Mate was that it's a constant work process for us. It doesn't stop. And while Gabor Mate might be 77 now, he's still, by his own acknowledgement, doing the work on himself. And so whatever we've been through, we look on as some kind of growth process, however bad it is, however traumatic it might be, however toxic that relationship might be in our lives. And so I'm going to ask you to do three things, or invite you to do three things during this 21-day program. And that is, firstly, whatever else you do during your day, if you can find 10 to 15 minutes to reflect on one or two things at the end of your day, I would like you to do that. And for that, you need a pencil and you need a paper. So this is about how we have become who we are today. And are there any self-limiting beliefs that are stopping us from actually moving forward and becoming either a better version of that self, or just the person that we want to be? Is there something that's clearly stopping us, something we're telling ourselves that about our life, about our relationships, about who we are, that is stopping us from getting to that point where we feel we've become? So in a way, it's an opportunity to not only go into your feelings in depth, but also to associate those feelings with what's going on in your physical body. So when I say that, then what comes back to me is we've done a lot of, or I've done a lot of drip feeding of some Ayurvedic information and some really basic but very ancient tenets of how we teach people to be in touch with something in nature outside of themselves, something bigger than they are. And I've been writing quite a long chapter on nature and nurture while I've been away. And that chapter itself brought me around to something that Gabor Mate says quite often about nature and nurture. And nurturing, he says, there is no separation. We know that now. The research strongly shows that we can't attribute who we are to either nature or nurture. But what happens is we are nature. We are born into nature. We are created in nature. And it's the nurturing that goes on through nature that helps to create us. And so all of a sudden, I'm drawn into Ayurveda straight away, because Ayurveda taught us thousands of years ago that we are inherently a living cell with the elements of nature within us in different ratios, different quantities. But actually, it's what happens to us after conception that actually helps to shape the person, the adult that we become. And so the other thing that's really exciting now is the developments that are going on in terms of somatic psychotherapy. So actually what I'm trying to do here is to not only get you back in touch with your feelings, which is, it sounds really easy, right? You know, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm joyous, so whatever you want to call it, I'm tired, whatever the feeling might be. There's some kind of somatic response in your body, in your physical body that's going on as a result of you feeling that. And so we often disassociate the two. And what's obviously apparent now is that we can't disassociate them. They go hand in hand. So our physical well-being is so reflected by how we're feeling. And our mind creates our sense of reality, right? So whatever we think is reality around us, just know that your mind is and has created that sense of reality. So challenge it. And we can do that by asking ourselves each day, what is the feeling that we've had today? Are there many different feelings that we've had? And what do we associate in our body? What happens in our body when we have those feelings? So whether or not during this program you are feeling happiness and everything's great and going your way, I want you to record those too. I just want you to get into some kind of pattern of being able, because you know what I'm like with my 21-day patterns, right? So get into a pattern of allowing yourself some time to sit and say, what were the feelings that I had today? What was I experiencing? And when I go into that feeling and I think of that moment that I had that feeling, was I aware of any kind of physical experience that was happening in my body? Was I sensing it anywhere in particular? And when that happens, is there some kind of pattern that's established? So, you know, for people who are dealing with trauma, so, and don't forget, trauma is not what happens to you. It's not the event that happens to you. Trauma is what happens to you after the event. It keeps going. So unless we deal with the traumatic feelings in our body, then that's when we believe that symptoms start to arise and we start to suffer physically as a result of trauma happening to us on a long-term basis. So this month is really a month of exploration for you, and you can go as deeply into it as you wish to. When you become comfortable at doing this, it kind of becomes a way of life for you. And it gives you a sense of also control, which if you feel that you are out of control with your health and well-being, that it's a yo-yo ride for you, that you struggle to keep it balanced, then this will be a really good program for you to be able to see if there's something that you're not aware that you're doing that may be holding you back, okay? So it's really about what's shaping the influences on how we act. And so you're just going to take some time to reflect each day. I will be encouraging you with a meditation each week to explore how we go into these physical experiences through the feelings. And I will talk you through that. And we will do a yoga class, which will hopefully really connect our emotions to our bodily physical asana in our yoga class, right? So I talk all the time about our yoga class being part breath work, part physical asana, and part meditation. That's the norm. What we will do this month is think really about how that mind and body connect, because we hear about it all the time. But I want you to really start to think about the effect that the mind and your thoughts has on your physical body. And the way that happens is through what we tell ourselves, through our self-beliefs. So halfway through the program, as always, I will invite you, or as many of you as is possible, and I might do 2 this month, because I feel as if there'll be a lot of interest by the time we get to day 10. There'll be a lot of interest in how we're progressing. And we might be all starting to notice that, or even feel slightly threatened by these self-beliefs that are slightly out of control, when we realize perhaps how long we've been living with them. But the thing I want to say to you is that these don't have to define us, right? And they can change really quickly. And when it does, it can be a huge, huge sense of liberation. So I would really welcome you doing this work with me over the next 21 days. And as I say, if you're not comfortable with sharing it in the group, you don't have to share it in the group. Journaling is a huge thing in self-care now, and it's for you that you're doing this, not for anyone else. However, the bonds that you're creating in this group have been phenomenal, and the connectivity is everything that I'd hoped for when I had this idea in October last year. And so I would encourage you to be in that safe space as much as you feel comfortable with, and to share with the people that you're already talking to, because what you're going to find is that these self-beliefs and these perceptions we have ourselves, they're usually not unique, right? We all, for some reason, are conditioned to have these same thoughts about ourselves. So looking at the foundation for who we are really, and noticing the inner feelings and the somatic experience that's going on in our physical body while we do it. And I'm going to introduce you also a little bit more to Gabor Mate. There is lots and lots and lots of free podcasts and YouTube videos, but I will recommend 1 or 2 that are specifically associated with what I'm talking about. He truly does have a gift as a GP for being the most considerate, the most compassionate psychotherapist without any training that I know. And his gift is the work that he